Mama Sarah, senorita, kiss me goodnight. I'm on Sarah, I'm on Sarah, I'm on Sarah, senorita. I'm on Sarah, I'm on Sarah, I'm on Sarah, senorita. I'm on Sarah, I'm on Sarah, I'm on Sarah, senorita. I'm on Sarah, I'm on Sarah, I'm on Sarah. In the meantime, let me tell you that I love you. And the moonlight and the sunlight hit the sky. Mama Sarah, senorita, Mama Sarah, senorita, kiss me goodnight. In the meantime, let me tell you that I love you. Mama Sarah, senorita, kiss me goodnight. Mama Sarah, senorita, kiss me goodnight.
Thank you so much, everybody. Please stick around. There's going to be a wonderful ceremony and service, so please stick around for a fantastic day about a fantastic lady. So thank you so much. God bless.
Everybody say Amy Johnson.
Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome along to Herne Bay, and welcome along to the launch of the Herne Bay Amy Johnson project. That will happen in just a few minutes' time. Just to let you know that unfortunately we haven't got the fly past today due to adverse weather, but the pilot Tracey Curtis-Taylor is actually here, and she's going to be talking about her adventures, etc. Before that, we would like Kaz to sing another song for us.
This song has been requested. It was played at Amy's remembrance service. So this is I Vow to Thee My Country for Amy Johnson.
I vow to thee my country, all earthly things above. In time and all and
Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for Taz, for the fitting tribute. The Amy Johnson project has been put together by Jane Priston, who has done a marvellous job. And they're going to unveil the board by the nieces of Amy Johnson. Ladies and gentlemen, Amy Johnson, in 1530 was and hopefully we'll get a few words with them if the radio mic will reach. Thank you.
Much indeed for inviting Judith and I here today to unveil this information board. It is absolutely beautiful, wonderful. You've done a beautiful job here, and we'd like to thank everybody who's put in so much hard work and planning into making a really lovely special day. The board is marvellous. Amy flew into people's hearts and minds as well as into our history books. And Susan and I are delighted to see that Herne Bay is keeping her memory alive. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for everybody coming, but also thank you for all the hard work that's been put in to produce everything connected with Amy Johnson. And I think this is absolutely brilliant. And it just shows what Herne Bay does when we all get together. So congratulations. Thank you very much for coming to Herne Bay. Lovely meeting you. And thank you, Jane.
Words from Jane Priston.
Everybody knows that I don't like talking publicly. Learn about her, read the book. This is just the start. We're taking this project forward. So I'm now going to hand over to Tracy, who would have been flying at this moment. And she's going to talk to you a little bit about the plane and how she feels about the project.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Tracey Curtis-Taylor.
Well, I should start by saying good morning, even though it actually isn't a terribly good one, which is why I'm here on the ground and not in my aeroplane and doing a fly past for this quite remarkable occasion here. I've never been to Herne Bay before this week. I came up on Tuesday just to have a look at the site, and I was going to operate from Maypole. But it's incredibly moving to be here and to meet Amy's nieces, who are the daughters of Amy's sister, who have never been to Herne Bay either. So everyone is actually feeling quite emotional about this, because of course it was the weather that caused Amy's catastrophic accident 12 miles off this coast back in 1941. So again, I can't pay a high enough tribute to Jane Priston. Jane contacted me after I came back from Africa on my solo flight from Cape Town back to England at the end of last year. And one of the first things I received was a long and compelling email from Jane Priston saying that she had read the book about Amy Johnson. Midge Gillies is actually here today signing copies of her book on Amy called Queen of the Skies. But Jane had been given a copy of this book by her husband and became simply infatuated with the story. And of course, living here, it has great resonance. So again, just to prove what one very determined woman can do, she sort of pulled this one off over, several months now. But I came down and saw a little biplane that she's designed and built, because she's an artist, as part of the waterfront. And of course, today, the unveiling of this board on the waterfront, which I hope again will just be the forerunner of what they hope to achieve here, which is a statue of Amy Johnson looking out to the estuary where she lost her life on that fateful day. Amy was of course flying for the ATA. She'd already made her name as a pioneering aviator. So what really put her name on the map and of course won her global acclaim was her astonishing flight in 1930, flying from the UK solo to Australia. And when you see those pictures of Amy, in her shorts in Burma, and just battling on through the elements, through unknown terrain, flying through volcanic ash clouds and across oceans. I mean, it quickens my pulse even now to read it. So it's people like Amy, and of course, in fact, Lady Heath, who was another great inspiration for me, but that was what really drove my flight solo from Cape Town back to England. I've flown vintage aeroplanes for most of the last 30 years, so I got into this at a young age, I suppose, but I was raised in Canada. My father was a journalist. I don't come from an aviating family. In fact, we had a pizza restaurant in the north of England. But I had my first flying lesson at 16 in Canada, and then when I moved to New Zealand in the mid-1980s, I followed my twin sister out there, and that's when I started flying in earnest. But what really interested me was old aeroplanes, and I was lucky enough to fly those very early on, and then I didn't really want to fly anything else. So I've had 25 years of flying wooden fabric, open cockpit aeroplanes, and actually my flight, the one I've just done, was also the culmination of 25 years of flying and dreaming about doing these things. So I very, very much relate to Amy's story. And you know what you have to do to, I suppose, achieve yourself in a different kind of way. So Amy, I think, was a very unusual person. You know, she came from a sort of middle-class family in Hull, you know, and had many years of frustration, I think, trying to find her real raison d'etre. And then in her mid-20s, she's in London, she's working as an independent woman, and she goes out to Stag Lane and just starts watching aeroplanes, and from that moment she's hooked. And that is actually the story of many of the early female aviators. They started flying and that was it. I mean, there was no physical impediment to them flying, but of course it was still very much a male-dominated world. And the story with all these early girls is that, you know, they were battling the male establishment to try and achieve themselves and to work as commercial pilots. So in doing these flights, they were really trying to prove that women could get out there and do it perhaps better than the men. But it was the girls that captured the imagination of the world. And I think Amy was, for my money, I think, is probably the most outstanding, because she just went on. But of course, by her early 40s, she lost her life flying for her country with the ATA. So I think it's just tremendous that everybody's turned out today. I'm so sorry I'm not sort of flying overhead in my Boeing Stearman, the Spirit of Artemis, but I'm going to come back. I just want you to know that. So when we finally get this statue of Amy on the waterfront, so there'll be a big fundraising effort over the next year or two, I'll be back with the aeroplane in better weather. So look, enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you again sometime.
Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause please for Tracey Curtis-Taylor.
Oh yay! Oh yay! Oh yay! Your most worshipful Lord Mayor, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen. On this very special day in Herne Bay, we're here to obviously celebrate Amy's life, but I ask you to do something in a moment. We've got a movie cameraman walking here somewhere. Movie Tone, I think it's called, the old days, but he's here somewhere. And what we want to do is make sure that everyone understands how proud we are of Amy Johnson's, I'm trying.
Now that's unusual. Right. Well, I'll just quickly say there's a movie tone man walking amongst you, and he's going to take some movies of you doing an almighty thank you. And make sure that Herne Bay sounds, as we often do, a wonderful, wonderful town, and we're deeply proud. Could we please get together, get ready, choose your voices to go into 3 cheers for Amy Johnson. Just one moment.
Hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Hooray! Hooray! Well done!
Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause for the town crier, Michael Britton.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm actually supposed to be from the BBC. I'm actually working for Movertone News as well. It is Filmmaker, and I would like to say that we have a very special occasion here, apart from all the other special occasions. Now we've got Amy Johnson herself going to come along and greet you. But I want you to first greet her, so when she arrives, what would you say? You'll say, hooray. I can hear you now. This is being recorded for the BBC, 1930. So let us hear you. Hooray! That's much better. Okay, we'll get a bit of atmosphere going. Because yes, I work for the BBC, and someone just now, some whippersnapper came up to me and said, what about April the 18th? Well, April the 18th, 1930, the BBC News decided that there was nothing newsworthy. And so they decided that they wouldn't actually broadcast any news, and they broadcast piano playing instead. But of course now we've got this incredible flight of Amy Johnson, and we've got this newsworthy event of her actually appearing here in a few moments. I have just heard that she is driving along the seafront in an MG, a 1930s MG, so a brand new MG. If you want to buy one of these little beauties, that's not Amy Johnson, that's the car, £175. Now when you think that Amy Johnson's aircraft, Jason, cost £600, you can see what a bargain that is. The coupe version is £245, and it does a top speed of about 65 miles an hour. Now Jason's top speed was 80 miles an hour. So there we are, but a good job she didn't use this car to get to Australia. The car that we'll be looking at in a few minutes, maybe a few hours, who knows, is 848cc, and it's an open car, and I hope that someone will tell me that it's on its way. And we actually have got the hit record of the day. Would you like to hear it? I'm not sure, I can't hear that up here. And once again, no, it's not panto time. Okay. So can we do that with the wonders of the... You can sing that. Oh, here you are then. So this is Cass. Great round of applause for Cass, please.
There's a little lady who has catched the nation's heart, Amy Johnson, it's you. We have watched and waited till the day you made your start, Amy Johnson, it's true. Since the news that you are safe and sound, everyone in town is playing this proud song. Amy, wonderful Amy, how can you blame me for loving you? Since you've won the praise of every nation, you have filled my heart with admiration. Amy, wonderful Amy, I'm proud of the way you flew. Believe me, Amy, you cannot blame me, Amy, for falling in love with you.
Wonderful, thank you so much for that. Isn't that incredible? And ladies and gentlemen, is this on? Can I hear myself? Yes, I can hear myself. That's the important thing. I like to hear myself. It doesn't matter about everybody. And, ladies and gentlemen, your attention please. I'm reading now, you see. We have just been informed that Amy Johnson is in a car that's making its way along the seafront, approaching from your... Oh, it's behind me. It is panto time. Thank you very much for that, sir. So, let's give a warm welcome to this heroine of the skies. Hello, Amy! Hooray! Hello, Amy. Hello, I'm so glad that you could make it. How are you? Now, is it all right if I just ask you a few questions? And is it okay if I call you Amy?
You can call me Johnny. I'm not going to make a speech. It would be impossible. I'm just so happy to be here, and to see you all after my long trip. I just so I love the people of England and of Kent and Herne Bay in particular, and it is so good to be back and to be back with the Empire again. It's lovely.
Good. And could you tell us something about your? Yes, indeed. Hooray! Hooray for the Empire, and hooray for Great Britain, indeed. The Union, yes, sorry, yes, can you tell us something about your epic flight to Australia, please?
Oh, of course, well, I was saying I would be very, very happy if this flight was to bring us, all together. We are so near should I take that? It's so near in so many things, friendship and fellowship and good feelings, everything except mileage, really. So it would be wonderful if people could come together, and especially wonderful if it was airplanes that were bringing us together. If people could be travelling, going out there almost every week, I think it would just be so much better. It would be wonderful.
Do you realise that you're the only woman to actually fly to Australia?
Well, yes, I had been told something along those lines.
Oh, right, okay. And will you tell us, how did you first think of this flight, and that you could actually do it?
Oh, well, if you don't mind, I brought my logbook. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything out. I'm a bit flustered. Oh yes, of course, yes. The idea to go to England and Australia in 13 days was the record, and as soon as it came into my mind, I was, it became very fixed in my mind. I was quite obsessed with it, and nobody had any faith in me that I could do it except myself. So somehow I knew I was going to absolutely have to prove it.
And it must have cost a lot of money?
Well, yes, it did cost quite a lot of money, and I mean, where was I going to get hundreds of pounds from? So there were many months of sort of rather unhappy fortune hunting, and then two wonderful English gentlemen, my father and Lord Wakefield, gave me the money for the plane, and well, really, their faith in me can never be repaid.
And then it all happened rather quickly, I understand.
Well, yes, it had to happen rather quickly. For you see, the rush begins because the monsoon season is coming. So I had May the 5th. Circled in red in my diary as being the last day at which we could leave, and so I had to arrange petrol and oil, supplies, tools, kits, and it was only 10 days before I was due to start. I didn't even have an aeroplane. But then I met, I've called him Jason, after my father's trademark. And he's a very ordinary little machine, but very dear friend to me now. We've been on this great adventure. And in only a short time, he was prepared. And so it was just before May the 5th that we were in Croydon, ready to go.
Must have been wonderful to suddenly be on your way.
Oh, yes, no, it was glorious. And it was wonderful to find some peace and quiet in the sky after all the months of hustle and bustle. So suddenly I found myself with time to think. Where was I going today? Well, it may have been Vienna. So would I see the city of dreams? Well, no, I'd only see the aerodrome. But flying was my job on this trip, not sightseeing. And then, Jason was a little dear. He behaved absolutely splendidly in the most terrible circumstances. I mean, there was this storm outside Baghdad, and he just weathered it wonderfully. I was terrified, but my little plucky Jason, he was not. He was wonderful, and different lands just flash by beneath you. I mean, there's India, and I was so proud because Jason reached India in only 6 days. But his pride was dashed slightly at that point because the monsoons chased after us, and Jason was so upset with that he crashed into a ditch. But when we were trying to find the race course in Rangoon to land, and that was when, unfortunately, we lost all chance of beating the record of getting to Australia. But there's no point crying over such things, I thought. We'll just carry on.
So he crashed, he hurt his nose?
He did, yes.
And what happened then?
Well, it took us 10 men, 2 days to put poor Jason back together. And then when I finally took off again with him, 3 rainbows circled us over the Java Sea, and that did cheer me up wonderfully. But it wasn't until we sighted Australia that I was truly excited. I cheered for joy, Jason and I up there in the sky. And then I was a little anxious because I did not know how Australia was going to receive us. But such a welcome that they gave us, I don't think will ever be forgotten in history. And Jason and I love Australia so much now, but England, I love you just as much, and it's so wonderful to be back home. And thank you so much for the welcome you gave me here today. It was so very kind of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And before you go, Amy, we have Darcy Priston with a presentation for you. Thank you, Amy. A big cheer for Amy and Darcy. Goodbye. And she's off now. I don't know where she's going. She's probably going to some aerodrome somewhere. She'll be driving along with your cheers echoing in her ears. I can hear them now. In that wonderful car, that little MG that I'd love to own, but there we are. And yes, Darcy, can I have a few words with you? Yes. And what did Amy say to you?
She said thank you for the wonderful flowers, and that maybe one day I could be a pilot just like her. But no, I want to be an actress.
Ah, right. Okay. Well, what am I going to say to you? I believe that you should follow your dreams, just like Amy does, and believe that nothing is impossible. Can you say that? Can you say nothing is impossible?
Nothing is impossible.
Don't we agree? Don't we agree? Okay. So thank you so much. Thank you. And thanks to you all for coming out. And thanks to you, Tracy, and Jane, and Darcy, and Amy Johnson's family. Thank you so much for coming. And to Amy, she hasn't gone yet. So there we are. Thank you very much. And join along with the swinging, the singing.
Wonderful Amy.
Thank you.
How can you blame me for loving you? Since you won the praise of every nation, you have filled my heart with adoration.
I was born in Australia, and I came to live in this country in the early 1970s. Got a job at the BBC in Leeds, where my job was to find stills and make films that would convince people in Yorkshire. Well, being in Australia, it didn't take me long to make the Amy Johnson connection. My brief was to make a film based on an archive film, which is why there are no interviews in it. But I have to say that I couldn't have made it without the help of one very, very special person. Her name was Molly Jones. She was Amy's sister, and her daughters are here today. So I hope you enjoyed the film. It's called Wonderful Amy. And I really did enjoy it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please a big round of applause for Canterbury divers. So have a little bit of a mingle and networking, and in a few minutes' time we'll be hearing from the Canterbury divers. Thank you.
Amateur scuba divers with a particular interest in maritime heritage and history. And although we are part-time amateurs, we also do a number amongst our membership, a few proper scientists and a couple of ecologists and so we've actually got a token archaeologist, but most of us are just salty old sea dogs. And as I say, we are amateurs, but we do like to dip our foot into the murky waters of proper marine archaeology from time to time. We actually did project in 2012 working with the German National Marine Museum where we repatriated a U-boat propeller and that's now on display in Wilhelmshaven and it's their only World War I U-boat exhibit. This year we've been involved with some dives with Wessex Archaeology and we're working on having an input into 3 English heritage projects. So as I say, we're amateurs but we're kind of trying to do the right thing. In addition, as you know, we recently found and identified a reasonably important World War II wreck, which was shot down during the Battle of Britain. And again, the film touched upon the fact that we managed to get that wreck protected. We've now got an exclusion zone around it, and we've also got the licence from the Ministry of Defence to do some limited excavation on the wreck in order to firm up the identity of the wreck and also find out whether there's any bits and pieces from that wreck which, if they are potentially going to be suffering from loss or damage or whatever, we can maybe think about recovering those bits and pieces, bringing them back ashore, conserving them and displaying them. So we do try and overachieve based on rather limited resources. As you saw from the film, we operate from a couple of very old and very patched up, leaky inflatable boats. We all chip in for fuel and maintenance costs and so on. And we do tend to sort of fly by the seat of our pants. So you will notice that for this evening's festivities, we've got matching new shirts on. Although I do feel a little bit like I've gone to a fancy dress party and somebody in the gas board. So how did we actually end up here? Well, about 13 years ago, we were approached by Midge Gillies, who, as I'm sure some of you know, literally wrote the book on Amy Johnson. And she was interested in some people going out to the site of Amy's crash and just seeing if there was anything left on the seabed of the wreck. We went out, did a few dives, and we found various bits and pieces, albeit none of it could be in any way linked to any World War II wrecks, let alone Amy's wreck. And in fact, it's what it really highlighted was the sheer amount of stuff that there is strewn across the seabed. Anyway, in the intervening period, several other teams have been out and dived at that location, including a team of RAF divers, which was led by Phil Knobs, and various people have tried, and with limited success in each case. So fast forward to 2013, and we again met Midge, this time in company with the human dynamo that is Jane Priston, and this time Jane was looking for somebody to go out and check out, as you saw in the film, a particular anomaly on the seabed. So we went out, looked at it, discovered what it was and so on. So that is not clearly connected to what we're doing today, it just gives you a background of what we've done and what we intend to do in the future. So, once we realised that wasn't what we were looking for, we then spent a long time poring over charts and looking at tide tables for 1941 and weather reports and so on, and a PhD thesis on sandbank migration, which I can recommend to you if you're having trouble sleeping. And generally learning as much as we could about the ASB Oxford as well, which is a quite distinctive aircraft in terms of its structure. And from time to time, Jane would give us bits and pieces from her research that might lead to other anomalies that would need looking at, or possible bits and pieces about location where people had previously looked, or where there was some suggestion that the wreck might have gone down. Meanwhile, I was writing a series of begging letters to large multinational marine electronics companies, asking them to either give or lend us some seabed imaging equipment, which is what you probably heard of as being called side-scan sonar. And eventually they'd had enough of my harassment, but instead of taking out an injunction against me, one of them decided it would be much easier to just give us some kit. So we then were given £2,500 worth of side-scan sonar, which we strapped to the back of one of our boats, incidentally roughly doubling its value. And so we're preparing to go back to the location and carry on the next part of the project. So the next part of the project is that, without boring you with all the scientific bits and pieces, the Airspeed Oxford is a very distinctively made aeroplane, and it's effectively two big heavy engines with the rest of it kind of strapped to the engines. The rest of it is very lightweight. And there's a very good chance that significant lumps of that aircraft would have gone fairly quickly to the seabed, even if other bits of it floated for some considerable time. And we do know, obviously, that bits of Amy's plane were recovered away from, quite a long way away from the crash site subsequently. So some bits would have floated for some time, but the significant bits that we would be looking for should be very close to where the plane hit the sea. As far as anyone can tell, Amy's was the only Airspeed Oxford that is still unaccounted for anywhere near the Thames estuary. So anything we find at that location that includes the right type of engines or the right bits and pieces from that plane should, in theory, be from Amy's plane. And there will be ways that we can hopefully establish that. Now, unfortunately, it's not just a case of going out there, having a poke about and finding some engines. As you can imagine, it's a bit more difficult. The crash site is 12 miles out to sea. It's within the shipping lanes. It's right next to a shifting sandbank, which over the years will have covered over and then uncovered and covered over and uncovered and so on, anything that landed within its soft sand. And the seabed itself is very silty, because it's part of the Thames estuary, obviously. So the visibility is notoriously very bad. There are currents that run over and around the sandbanks and swirl around, and for a good part of the time you can't dive there at all. And sandbanks, by their very nature, are dangerous and treacherous places, and the ones in the estuary have been taking ships for 2 millennia, and each time a new ship wreck happens, then obviously the debris from that wreck is strewn across and makes everything a more confusing picture. Nevertheless, it takes more than that to put us off. So, our intention is to carry out a full survey of the immediate area around the crash site, which we'll do with our loaned equipment. And then we're going to map any anomalies that we find on the seabed, and then all those anomalies will be dived upon in order to establish whether they are in any way connected with that wreck. And once we've done that, there are hopefully 3 possible outcomes. The first is that once we've identified the wreck and found it, what we want to do is lay a wreath and a permanent brass plaque commemorating, obviously, Amy's life and also the life of Lieutenant Commander Fletcher, who died in the rescue attempt. Secondly, the examination of whatever remains of the aircraft wreck should go some way towards hopefully answering some questions about exactly what happened to that plane. And it should at least be able to disprove some of the theories that people have come up with. And thirdly, depending on any number of different factors, it would be nice if we could look into the possibility of recovering any significant bits and pieces of that wreck that could be brought ashore, conserved and put on public display. Again, as a wider part of the whole project. So that's where we're at the moment. So the side scan sonar is gaffer taped to the back of our least tatty boat, as we speak. And we're just waiting for a suitable break in the weather when we get a significant number of flat cargoes before we go out there. And we'll continue to liaise with Jane and hopefully get some updates on the website. And in the meantime, if any of you have actually got a 65-foot gin palace that you're not using that we can borrow, that would be significantly helpful. So if you'd like to see me about that afterwards, that'd be great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Simon, and we wish you the very best of luck with your endeavours. Now, Simon and the team are talking about recovering the plane. We have a gentleman here today that may have a different theory. Ladies and gentlemen, could you please put your hands together for David King? He's going to tell you a very, very interesting story.
Hello everyone, it's been a fantastic day, hasn't it? so much happening, thanks to Jane. When I was at school, I was taught Latin, as I expect many of you were too. This meant learning how to conjugate verbs such as amo. That is to say, amo was I buy, emery, to buy, Amy, I bought, and emptom, I have bought. So it goes amo, emery, Amy, emptom. But our Latin teacher told us a new lesson. Not to say amo, emery, Amy, emptom, but amo, emery, Amy Johnson. But of course we all fell around laughing. But the truth is that Amy Johnson's name is better known to us schoolboys than many film stars, pop stars, cricketers, or dare I say it, even footballers. She was very special, and she was well known. Everybody of our age knew her, as indeed we saw on the film, millions and millions and millions of people knew her around the world. Like one of those happy twists of fate, the back garden of our home in Maidstone was in the direct line from Dover, at which the Continental Airlines made their landfall, and Croydon, where they landed. So as a family we became familiar with all the many sorts of aircraft that invaded our airspace. In 1930, when I was 10, we learned that Amy Johnson was about to fly back home. And after her triumphant solo flight to Australia, in a Herne Bay airplane with Imperial Airways, well, we knew what time it was going to be there, and we were outside, and we watched the plane fly over, which we assumed was the one that she was on board. But having seen the film tonight, I gathered that the plane was delayed and came in after dark, but she was still flown over our garden, even though we couldn't actually see her. In my first encounter with this great English heroine, this was a time when the British Empire was still in its prime, and we were top dogs. And it was expected that we should lead the world in breaking records. But Amy was very special. A little while later, the Gypsy Moth Jason was displayed in Avery's showroom in King Street in Maidstone, and my dad took me to see it. It was inspiring to realize that this little machine had flown all those thousands of miles with just one determined woman on board. And so the years rolled on, and the end we watched as she flew to Tokyo and then to Cape Town. But the war came, and with it the Air Transport Auxiliary, which Amy joined. The 80A delivered the aircraft from factories to aerodromes. And the pilots included those who had fought in World War I, as well as younger qualified pilots like Amy. Called upon to fly all types of aircraft, they played a critical role in keeping the squadrons up to strength. The RAF could not have managed without them. But came that fateful day in January 1941, when we heard that Amy's plane had come to grief in the 10th estuary, and that our Amy was no more. By that stage of the war, we were pretty much inured to people dying. Nearly 70 people were killed in our airfield at RAF Station Detty on the first day of the Battle of Britain, including 4 in the operations room where I worked. Though, fortunately, I was not on watch on that time. But Amy was different. We had all taken her to our hearts, and we felt a personal loss. I had joined the Auxiliary Air Force, that's the RAF equivalent of the Territorial Army, just before the war started. I was in the County of Kent Squadron, which had just moved from Manston to Detton. Detting was under the control of number 16 group of Coastal Command, and I was engaged in the operations room where we conveyed orders from the Royal Navy, Chatham, to the squadrons of aviatrix based at Detting. The work consisted largely of protecting our convoys from U-boats. Our sphere of operations was the English Channel, from Brighton to the French coast, and the Southern North Sea, and all the area in between. So the Thames estuary, where Amy had crashed, was very much on our patch. A few weeks later, I came off watch and summoned a lift into Maidstone. That's how we travelled in those days, with no petrol. The first vehicle to come along was an RAF low loader, which contained the remains of a crashed aircraft. And when I climbed into the cabin, the driver told me that the plane was the Airspeed Oxford, which Amy had been delivering when she came down. I got out of King Street in Maidstone, and as the lorry drove off, I got a view of the Oxford aircraft. Its sharp fuselage with its wings folded alongside, painted yellow, as it was designed to be a training aircraft. I'm so pleased to be here today to support Jane Priston in her endeavour to keep alive the memory of our great contemporary, Amy Johnson, who always reminds me of the words in the Bible where Moses says to the people of Israel, "Be strong and very courageous." Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, what an amazing story. David King, ladies and gentlemen. I'd now like to invite the Lord Mayor of Canterbury, Councillor Anne Taylor, to come and say a few words. Lord Mayor of Canterbury.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. King. That was fascinating. In fact, the whole day has been brilliant. What a special lady. And I think, thanks to Jane, we will not... She's been brought alive. It has been absolutely brilliant. And you guys over there, divers, carry on. I've only got a sort of boat that goes in the bar. I haven't got a big one, but I'll keep my ears open for you. There's obviously lots of people to thank. I think Chris, because I know you always work hard, so thank you very much for putting this on. Herne Bay Partners, Herne Bay Partnership, because they do a lot for Herne Bay. As I said earlier on at the pier, you know, I'm a Herne Bay girl, so I'm always singing its praises because we have a fantastic town here. I'd like to thank Amy's cousins for coming. I hope you enjoyed yourselves, and you can tell that we do care, and we will carry on caring. We will look after her memory here. But I've mentioned Jane, but a big, big thank you to you. Keep up the good work. You must work so hard. At the end of the Divers film, it was to be continued. Well, this is going to be continued. We're going to carry on. We're going to push forward for that statue and do everything we can to make Amy part of Herne Bay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Lord Mayor of Canterbury, Councillor Anne Taylor. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as Anne said, this would never ever happen, and if we wouldn't be here today if it was for one lady. This lady has worked probably 24 hours a day for the last how many months, I just don't know. She's done a marvellous job. I know she hates talking in public, but I'm sorry, I'm going to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand up and give a big round of applause to Jane Priston.
I'm not going to give a speech, I'm no good at all of this sort of stuff. I do want to thank everyone personally for being here. People have come a very long way to our little town to remember Amy, and this is just the beginning. So look out for lots more to come. A very special thank you though for me goes to my family, who I wouldn't have been able to do this without them. Mum and Lisa for childcare, my children for the inspiration to be and do what I do. I'm the woman I am today because I had my kids, and it made me realise that we can all do whatever we want to do and push forward. And for my husband, who has supported me all the way through all of this, from technical man to tears and tantrums and all of the rest of it. Thank you all for being here, and I've said too much, so I'm going to stop. I'll shout to Chris.
And as you probably know, the project is just about to begin, because the next aim is to hopefully get a bronze statue of Amy very close to the information board, and more details will be on the website as far as that's concerned. Ladies and gentlemen, please continue networking and have a nice afternoon. Thank you very much.
Your story doesn't mean to say that the engines aren't still there, does it?
The wings were on the low loader.
Yeah.
Were the engines with it as well?
I have no memory, but I'm quite sure that the engines fell off.
Yeah.
And the wooden aeroplane floated.
Well, I'll introduce myself. I'm Pauline Vahey, Chairman of the British Women Pilots Association. A little bit about the association. Next year we celebrate our 60th anniversary. We were originally founded in 1955 by ex-members of the Air Transport Auxiliary, of which obviously Amy Johnson was probably the most famous. Amy never made it to be one of our members, but there was a trust fund set up whereby every year an aspiring young woman who wanted to enter the commercial world was given the Amy Johnson Memorial Scholarship, and this paid for some of her flying to get her to a commercial level. Now, modern times being what they are, that wound up last year. I think the good news is that the remnants of that have now been passed on to the de Havilland Trust, and actually the scholarship that will continue to be awarded will be for a female engineer, and Amy Johnson's name will continue on. I mean, she was absolutely an amazing lady, and today's been a lovely day to come here to celebrate Amy. We've had a number of our members down here and really applaud what you're doing. I think women today need these role models. Women can fly. We are actually suited to it. We try very hard to encourage and support women into a career in aviation and or flying recreationally. We also have our own scholarship that we give away every year. Next year, it being our 60th, we hope to give away, wait for it, 6. What we're trying to do is looking more at the broader types of aviation that women can get involved in. It's not just about flying, as I do, a fixed wing single engine aircraft. Obviously there's helicopters, but people are more and more getting into microlighting. I started as a glider pilot. There's gyrocopters. There's all sorts these days of different types of flying which we want to be more inclusive with. One of the other things that we're doing is our scholarship has now been awarded to an engineer, and the Women's Engineering Society, of which Amy was a member, we're seeking to build a closer relationship with them, and Amy is the link, if you like, and we are looking at, trying to encourage women to get into engineering as well. And we're looking at our charity for our celebrations next year to be the Women's Engineering Society. I was a mathematician at school, so I'm passionate about getting more women into science and engineering. We can do this, but we need the role models, and I think what you're doing here at Herne Bay in promoting Amy, it's great. Love it.
My next public engagement, I'm flying it up to RAF Milden to go and talk to the Americans.
Oh, right. Oh,
but I need literally permission from the Pentagon to take a private airplane into an American military base.
Well, I tried to get in there when I was doing research for the book because there was a big race from there and
That's
they wouldn't
right,
let me in. Milden Hall Madness.
I know, and she was in a de Havilland Comet. Have you seen the one at Chilvers? Grosvenor House?
I touched it.
No one
was looking.
It flew this last summer.
Did it?
Yeah. So we got that back in the air.
Gosh. No, it's
So that was the
Did you know that the comet that Amy and Jim flew is being restored? Yes.
Is it really? Where?
Yes. At Derby Airfield, Black Magic it was called, and it's being restored by a chap called Ken Fern. And we'd be delighted to be in touch to go and see it. You can fly in, can't you? You can fly in.
I could fly in.
Well, there you are. There you are. Don't make a big fuss of it. Just give them a ring. Just tell them. Just tell them, because they'll now show you everything.
But you see, I'd love to go to the museum where all the memorabilia is as well.
Survey.
Yes.
That's lovely.
Yes.
A lot of they haven't got everything on display just yet, but they've got some lovely things. And you must have seen Jason, haven't you? The Science
I have
Museum?
seen Jason.
Yes, what did you think of that?
You can't quite believe it, can you?
No.
You just see it. It just looks so fragile. Really.
And was, I think. Very fragile. I like the AA badge on the side. Yes. But I just love the way Amy referred to Jason.
Yes,
it's her baby almost, she and Jason were doing it together. It was a joint effort, wasn't it?
Yes. She had to rely on him, didn't she?
Well, you do develop an extraordinary relationship, even though it is a piece of machinery. Well, I had mine literally, rebuilt and customised for me, so it's very much a part of me.
So what's it called?
It's a bone steerman.
But does it have a name?
It's called the Spirit of Artemis. I tend to think of it as the steerman, really, but I have a huge attachment to it. It's a love affair, actually. So I'm sure Amy.
Yeah, I'm sure Amy.
And she was engineering her own aeroplane, which I don't. I'm not an engineer. I do very basic checking on the aeroplane.
But can you tell by how it sounds if it's well or not?
Absolutely. So I need to go back and see Jet, and funny enough, I need to read your book again. And I've read it twice before over the years, but I need to go back, having flown Africa and having sort of experienced something of, I need to go back and revisit the story.
Oh, thank you.
It's a lovely book.
Well, it was fun to do. It was a good, great story.
How long did it take?
Story.
Oh, about 3 years.
Is that right? So research and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you pick up on the story? What was the?
I was just looking for another subject, and I thought because I think she's really inspirational because she did something that I couldn't imagine doing. So I'm always interested in women in particular who do something which they're not meant to do. So she was from the wrong class, the wrong sex, the wrong background to be doing something as scary as that. And I think the 1930s is so glamorous. And just an amazing life. So
David King's talk was absolutely riveting.
Yes. And also, I don't think it conflicts with the idea of the engines being out there.
I don't think it does, because the engines will be at the bottom of the sea, and the wooden part could float away.
Do you know what he said then? Because somebody came up to me from the crowd and said that his father was based at RAF Woodford, and the theory was going around that she was shot down by friendly fire. We've all heard that theory, but David, when he said he saw that wreck on the
the loader, he said it hadn't been shot up. The aeroplane was intact. So that to me is although it's circumstantial, that is nevertheless an important witness account of the condition of the airplane. So I don't think she was shot down. I think she ran out of fuel. I think she genuinely did. But I was interested when you said she was a fantastic navigator. So why was she so far? Why was she so far?
She wasn't a brilliant. It was acknowledged she wasn't a brilliant pilot. She was a brilliant engineer and she was a navigator.
He didn't actually have that much experience, which is what makes it so phenomenal. The courage is almost unimaginable.
I think for me as well, one of the most moving parts of the day, hadn't been to Herne Bay before. So to look out across the water, that's where you are. It was like visiting a war grave, you know, and it was very, very poignant, and I feel so pleased. I just feel as if I come and sort of paid my respects to her in a way.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, it was very important, and it's been such a wonderful day.
She was young to go, wasn't she?
Well, she was very young.
Yes.
But she did a lot in her years, didn't she? I mean, she was driven, and it's interesting to read about her energy and this single-minded determination.
Yes. And I think her family were very supportive as well. I think it must have been very brave of them. I think the grandfather, who is the Dane, I think he said to Amy's father, "You've got to back her. She's got a passion, and you've got to give her a chance." Which is amazing for those days, isn't it? And the odds were that she wouldn't make it, really. To be honest, the odds were very much stacked against her. So perhaps he had a lot of belief in that.
Well, I think there's serious momentum now behind this. So with everybody kind of contributing in their different ways, I think we'll get that statue. And maybe in the end the mystery will be cracked. I believe it will be.
Well, I'm not sure we'll ever know what happened, but it'd be nice to find something to prove that, you know, where the plane went down.
That's right. We'd love to just hold something. Give us a few nuts and bolts and things and think, this is at least a little.
To be a full stop to the end of the story. That's right. So Jane's done a wonderful job. And so she got everybody together and produced a wonderful day.
I loved it actually when the Lord Mayor of Canterbury, Anne Taylor, just got up and she said she's brought Amy alive for us.
I thought she was there today. I think there was a really strong sense of her presence.
Well, today it's been absolutely wonderful.
I really enjoyed it.
I think tremendously. It was a very, very good day.
Wonderful Amy, how can you blame me for loving you? Since you've won the praise of every nation, you have filled my heart with admiration. Amy, wonderful Amy, I'm proud of the way you flew. Believe me, Amy, you cannot blame me, Amy, for falling in love with you. Amy, wonderful Amy, how can you blame me for loving you? Since you've won the praise of every nation, you have filled my heart with admiration.